Art Basel conversation. Today it's artist and gallerist, and we're very happy to welcome Andrée Sfeir-Semler from Beirut and also Wael Shawky. So take it away.
Thank you very much.
You very much.
Thanks a lot.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting us. I want to start with a few words about the gallery because several may not know it. The contemporary art scene in the Middle East is pretty new. It all started probably in the mid-90s. And we started the Beirut Gallery in 2005. We started looking at art from the Arab world in the beginning of the 2000s. And then started discovering more and more talents from that part of the world, and decided to open a white cube in the city of Beirut. This white cube had the mission to link all Arabic cities, and we had the ambition to look at contemporary artists working in several parts of the Arab world. We had the ambition of bringing these artists to the West, to the international art scene. And on one of these trips, I started traveling the Arab world and went to several cities. One of them was Cairo. I visited their townhouse gallery, which was, and which still is, a non-profit space in the city of Cairo, run by a person called William Wells. This was an important platform in the city of Cairo that started contemporary art in Cairo. You agree, Wael? And William coordinated my meetings with many artists, among them Wael Shawky. And Wael introduced his work, and I was very fascinated. I knew the work already from Venice Biennale, where he was invited to Aperto in 2003, and where I had seen a big installation. And so it was not the beginning from scratch. Wael is an artist who is multimedial. He does everything. He has many skills. He can draw amazingly beautifully, like a classical artist would do, which is not evident nowadays anymore. He does film, he does sculpture, installations, name it. Wael, I would suggest you say a few words about the anthropology of Cabaret Crusades, because everyone knows Wael Shawky as the author of Cabaret Crusades, but there is a Wael Shawky before Cabaret Crusades. I would say Wael Shawky is a historian artist, like the history painters of the 18th, 19th century. Wael tells us stories and writes history. He reflects about the past and looks towards the future. He works on several levels. He is a storyteller, like we all are in the Arab world. There is, let me give a parenthesis. We do not have in the Arab world a visual tradition, like the Persian, for example, or the Indian. We have a storyteller tradition. You all know about 1001 Nights, and in fact, even the Bible or the Quran were carried from mouth to ear before getting written much later. And therefore, Wael is completely in that Arabic tradition. And when I started trying to find artists in the Arab world who are rooted in our tradition but are internationally and universally crucial and important, Wael was the one in Egypt who I really looked strongly at for that exact reason. He tells the story, and it is always very complex. You don't know where it's exactly, but it feels really rooted in our part of the world. Please, Wael, give us a few hints about the start of your work and how you see it.
So much. Thank you so much, Andrée. Yeah, yesterday actually we were trying to think together in which direction we go in this talk, and I thought that it's very important to speak about really our relationship as an artist and a gallerist, and I think it's really extremely important for me because I started this production mainly in 2010. But
before speaking about the Crusades, tell us how you came to filmmaking, how you started telling stories. Talk a little also about Darb al-Arba'in, about former films. No, just to say how you work.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say in the beginning that it was extremely also important for me to work with Andrée because that started in 2010. I mean, of course, we knew each other since she went to Cairo, but it was extremely important in my career to work with Andrée because I believe it's extremely important for me also to have this dialogue with the gallerist. It's not only someone that have the platform, the economical platform for the work itself. I think it's something completely different when I work with someone like Andrée, and this is really true, not because just we're here. Because I deal with her as a curator more than a gallerist, really. And this is extremely important. If I want to speak about the series of Cabaret Crusades that started 2010, I also have to say that it started before all the current events in the Arab world. And this is also very important to me. I don't believe that the artist should be a reactionary for what is happening of the political events. I think art has much higher value than this. And I think many artists that I know agrees with me on this. But it was what happened that coincidentally it linked to this current events. Because what we see in the history 1,000 years ago can be easily mirrored today somehow in what's going on in the Arab world and internationally. The relationships between, let's say, the Europe and most of the Arab world, I think it has, when I look to the history that it's written, for example, by Ibn al-Qalansi, I see similar relationships between what is happening today, between West and East, between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, for example, and what is going on today. What I tried to end the entire series with is a conflict that is happening between Shia and Sunnah, and also between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. And this is not because this is happening now, because this is what happened in the Fourth Crusades. And also to focus on the idea that although the Crusades started with a holy dream, it was a religious dream by Pope Urban II, but of course it ended with economical purposes. And what happened that instead of conquering, for example, Jerusalem in the Fourth Crusades, Europe, with the help of Venice particularly, decided to conquer Constantinople. And Constantinople, of course, was the Christian Byzantine Empire during this time. And that was also for me as a sign that it became the Catholic Church attacking the Orthodox Church in the name of God also. It was not really as it was mentioned in the beginning that it will be only Christian-Islamic war. If you want.
What's important, as you can hear, is that Wael, before starting working, researches the subject he's going to work on. He works, in fact, like researcher, like a university teacher would work. He researches the topic. All in all, this Cabaret Crusades, the Cabaret Crusades are made in 3 parts. And for each of them, Wael has written a script. And for writing that script, he has read lots of books, because the story of the Crusades is again a told story. And he told me several times that there is no truth. He needs to find the truth, because you have like the writers and the authors of these books on about what happened in the Middle Ages and in the late, very early ages when Islam started, in fact, and before the Crusades went to the Arab world to conquer the Arab world and to Christianize the Arab world. Each person writes it differently. Each historian has his point of view. So Wael works on a topic like this like a researcher first. He researches the whole project, then after researching it, he thinks on how is he going to tell this story so that it becomes a Wael Shawky, because we're talking here about art, we're not talking about history. So this is the strength and the quality of these works. After researching it, it needs to carry his handwriting. And there is something very major in this case. He makes the films with marionettes, not with human beings. So in fact, he brings the story away from reality and brings it to a level of surreal fiction. This is, again, a dimension that is super important to the work, that so that you don't know, it becomes like anachronistic. You don't know if you're looking at Star Wars or if you're looking at the past. And when you look at the films, he knows everything. But when you look at the film, you're not necessarily able to tell the story. And to give you so that you see what we're talking about, we're going to show now 2 little parts of the part 3 of the Crusades, which is showing now at PS1 MoMA, New York. It's a production that he just finished, and he has a solo exhibition at PS1, which I advise everyone to visit. It's until the end of August. And it is showing as well in Qatar, in Mathaf. And it was produced it is a co-production between Qatar and Sammlung Nordrhein-Westfalen in K20 in Düsseldorf. And the museum was amazing. They turned the museum into a stage and into an artist studio, and the film was filmed there. We'll look at it, and then we'll look at the making of. Please, Régie, can you show us the films?
مرحبا مرحبا. بالرغم من أني عجوز ضرير، فقد نويت أن أكون معكم بنفسي في الحملة تحت لواء الصليب. فليحيا الصليب،
فليحيا الصليب.
غير أنه يجب أن تدفعوا المبلغ المتفق عليه قبل الرحيل.
الرجال ينتظرون منك تأخير الدفع.
بشرط واحد، أن تبدأ الحملة باحتلال مرفأ زارة.
ولكن سيدي الذوق، زارة مدينة مسيحية تخص ملك المجر، والرجال حقا مترددون، فكيف يحدث هذا باسم الصليب؟
هذا أو الدفع فورا.
حسنا، سأقنعهم، ولكن يجب أن يظل هذا الأمر بيننا نحن القادة فقط. أما سائر الجيش فينبغي ألا يعلم شيئا، فلنتجه لزارة.
Possible to hear? Yes. Just very quickly, just to say that this is Dandolo, the Doge of Venice. And what is the person who is speaking to him is the leader of the French army. So what they are trying to convince the Doge is to bring with them all the ships from Venice to go to first to go to Alexandria, then to Cairo, then to Jerusalem. The Doge decided that they cannot have this trip if they don't pay all the amount of money to Venice first. And I think from this point, actually, they will not be able, the French leaders will not be able to bring all the money to Venice. And therefore, the Doge will decide for them that they bring all the army, the European armies, first to Zara. And then after Zara, they will decide to go to Constantinople. So that was basically the Fourth Crusades. It did not go to Cairo as it was planned.
We'll show another 2 minutes of another moment in the film now.
أبانا الحقيقي في هذا اليوم سأدافع عن قضيتي. أنت الذي مددت عونك إلى يونس في جوف الحوت، وأخرجته سالما من هنا. وبعدما وفرت ملكا نينا، أنقذت عبدك دانيال من بين أنياب الأسد الشجاع المفترس، ووقيت الأطفال الثلاثة وسط النار. مولاي اجعل هذا اليوم هبتي وعوني، وإذا كان يرضي امنحني ذلك قبل نهاية النهار، لأنتقم تماما لابن أختي رولا. شبابنا الحقيقي في هذا اليوم سأدافع عن قضياتي. أنت الذي مددت عونك إلى يونس في جوف الحوت وأخرجته سليما من هناك، وبعدما وفرت ملك نينا وانقذت عبدك دانيال من بين أنياب الأسد الشجاع المفترس، ووقيت الأطفال الثلاثة وسط النار. مولاي اجعل هذا اليوم هيبتي وعوني، وإذا كان فيك
أنت الذي مددت عونك إلى يونس في جوف الحوت وأخرجته سالما من هناك.
Isn't that amazing? It's an opera, Wael, and in fact, the beauty about it is has multi levels. So we have glass marionettes. This is, I think, the first time in history that glass marionettes have ever been made. We have very beautiful special effects. We have singing from the Arab world that is different from whatever opera we know in the West. So tell us a little about all of that.
Would like also to mention that what you are hearing here is a song taken from a book called Roland's Song. And I used this book. Of course, I used many historical texts to write the script, but the main, let's say, European text I used is Roland's Song. I think it's extremely important. We see it also in the second film of the series, The Path to Cairo. And I find that it's this scene anyway. This scene is the last scene in the film. After they already the Venetians attacked Constantinople, so they set the fire in Constantinople, and in that case, because it was that conflict that I was speaking about. It's the Catholic Church attacking the Orthodox Church in the name of God. And I found that this translation for this event has to happen through a text that it's coming already from Roland's Song, that it was really celebrating the idea of the King Charlemagne mainly, and the idea of the European existence. The making of the marionette of glass is also very important to have it in glass for many reasons. One of them is to try to connect to Venice. And because, of course, Venice is, we're ending the series with the Venetian attack. And this is the Fourth Crusades. And also another part is coming from the idea of fragility. It's connecting also to a book I was reading by José Saramago, The Gospel According to Jesus Christ. And I remember one part of the book where, the writer is trying to imagine Jesus Christ speaking to God and asking God, how come we became that fragile? And how come we have this amazing mind and soul that it's all present in a very fragile, breakable body? And I found that this is something really has to be translated through glass, mainly glass, to see this. And part of the film also that you see the mechanism of the movement for these marionettes. And I think it's sort of religious translation. What else?
You probably all wonder, how can you do marionettes in glass? In order to do these marionettes and to invent those persons, Wael has made drawings mainly in the Metropolitan Museum in New York in the African department. He has drawn masks and has done a lot of sketches. Then he did clay models based on those sketches. Then we have research with the gallery and to find a place that was able to realize the ideas of Wael, because it's not easy to make puppets in glass. We have been researching with the gallery team. Anna Novak has been trying to find people in Poland, in Berlin, in Baccarat, in France, wherever we could find glass blowers. And we were lucky to find someone in Murano, glass stress, who had the skills of doing it. So Wael would then go to Venice, stay there for almost 6 months. He would work very narrowly with the glass blowers, 2 guys who have these skills of blowing whatever you want, but you need to tell them what they want, because this is, I mean, it has to become a Wael Shawky. So Wael would make a clay model, he would make sketches, and he would work with these people who make the glass.
We had 2 teamworks actually in Venice. One team for just to make pieces of glass, which are really 2 amazing maestros, and they are working in a factory, belongs to Adriano Berengo. And another teamwork is coming really from France, only for taking care of the mechanism of the marionettes. And a third teamwork is only taking care of the costumes. It is like a film. And
for the costumes, it's really haute couture. Wael was like going over the market in Murano, and he would find a hat maker. He would address this girl named Francesca, and she made those little costumes that you also can check and see in Art Unlimited, where where we are showing a whole installation with the marionettes, so you can check on the clothes of those marionettes. And once the marionettes got ready, then they traveled to Düsseldorf. We had to find a place that could take a 12-meter stage, a circular stage, 12-meter big. We had to find how do you call them? The people who move the marionettes, Wael? Puppeteers who are able to move glass marionettes. So the whole thing traveled to Düsseldorf, to K20, where Wael built, with the assistance of the team of the museum, a stage that was 12 meters in diameter, a circular stage. Can you tell us about the making of the stage and of the scenography, Wael?
Yeah, as we were saying, it's extremely complex research to try to connect the script of each film to a particular scenography and also a particular type of marionettes. We will show 2 examples of the 2 other films after, but I would like to say that to make the 3rd film, it was extremely important for me to make a circular stage that it's really we can control it by it's sort of like remote control, basically to have each circle can rotate automatically in a certain speed, in a certain direction, in a certain moment in the film. So in that case, the location in the film does not become only a background for the film, it becomes an essential element. And it's also a way of introducing the importance of the geographical location in this whole story. So it does not, it becomes as important as the main figure, the actor. Yeah, this is another scene for, actually the preparation for Venice scene. So some of the marionettes, of course, some of them are kinetic objects, and some others are statics, and we deal with the statics pieces.
In fact, the
as
marionettes which
extras.
do not need to move and which are standing like the crowds in theater or which build the background are statical marionettes that are puppets that do not move, who do not move.
Yeah, but in general, I would say that the third part was the longest and the most difficult experience I've ever had in a film. Really, it was extremely difficult dealing with the glass marionettes, and also dealing with even in the teamwork. It was really interesting. Let's say to have many different nationalities working at the same time in the same location. Of course, Italians, Germans, Romanians, seriously, from Arabs. The problem sometimes in this set that maybe I'm the only person who speaks Arabic in the entire set. And the entire story is in Arabic. Of course, everybody knows what's happening because of the translation, but also the puppeteer has to feel the word that is spoken. So that's why it was very important to...
Can you tell us something about the sound and the singing? You spoke a little about it earlier, but before we show the second part, can you tell us something about the tradition of these Sufi songs and of the Pearl Fisher songs?
Well, also the music is extremely important in this film. It's a musical series. So many of the scenes, I made the script based on the historical text. As I said, most of the time are coming from Ibn al-Qalansi, Ibn Kathir, Ibn Jubair, Usama ibn Munqidh. And then I make a workshop with traditional musicians. In this case, it was traditional musicians from Egypt, actually. And most of them are Sufi singers. To create something really completely different and unique and has to do with the case of the film, sometimes it's just difficult to work with traditional singers that they used to sing in a certain way and to give them a specific direction to work through. But most of the time, it go fantastic in the end if it succeed. So this is the case in this film. We will show after that, we will show part of the second film where I worked really with a completely different type of musicians, with which they call them it's called Fijeri music.
Say do it now. It's enough.
Yes. But
can we stop this so that we can show the second part?
I will play it from here. Yes.
While we're trying to find it, in fact, what is the role of a gallery and in working with an artist? This is the topic of this morning's speech, in fact. We decided to concentrate on this one project. So the gallery, in fact, is not only, as many might think, selling work. The role of the gallery is to organize the production of this work, to assist the artist in finding the places. Are you ready? Should I interrupt?
ينبغي أن تسير التحضيرات في سرية تامة على أن يتم التنفيذ في العلن، وليكن المكان هو المسجد، واليوم هو الجمعة ظهراً. وغنيني لحنين مع البلبلي فالنما البريد في صبه يحكي خرير الماء في الجدول يا أين النديم السمحو أين الصبوح فقد هم الضاح الهم قلبي الجريح ثلاثة هن أحب المنى كأس وانقام ووجه صبيح
This one called Hassan Sabbah. He's the founder of the supposedly historically the first like let's say terrorist group sort of, and they were like called Hashashin. What I tried to use for this song is a poem written by his friend, and his friend is Omar Khayyam. So
this is in fact, this film was made in Marseille. Those puppets are made out of ceramic.
Yes.
That were sculpted and dressed in Marseille with historical textile clothes from Hermès storages, and the atmosphere of the film is, as you can see, very different from the first part. But again, the puppets are not human beings. They are a mixture of
This is Alice, the daughter of Baldwin II.
تذكر كان الإمبراطور شارلمان مسرورا مليئا بالبشر. سقطت قرطبة أسوارها الخارجية خرقت. المجانيق دمرت الأبراج وأحالتها إلى ركاب. آلت الغنائم الثمينة إلى جميع فرسانه. ذهب وفضة ومعدات حربية ثمينة.
لم يعد في المدينة أحد من المسلمين.
فالذي لم يذبح تحول إلى المسيحية رعبا وخوفا. وجلس الإمبراطور في حديقة في الجوار، ومن حوله رولاند وأوليفر والدوق سنسو وأنسيس الشجاع وغودفريدي أنجو حامل علم الملك وغيرين أيضا ومعه غيرير أيضا. وحيث هؤلاء كان هناك إخوة كثيرون.
50,000 كاملة من فرنسا الجميلة والعزيزة.
جلس هؤلاء الأتراب النبلاء وقدم الصرافون الدمى والشطرنج واحتفظوا بهما.
Okay, so yeah. So this film is all made in ceramic. We produced it completely in South France, in a city called Oban.
And this film launched, in fact, at Documenta, and many of you may have seen it. And as we have to talk, in fact, about our relationship, I remember a very beautiful moment when Caroline Christophe Bakariev and myself went to Marseille to see the film. Because when Wael works, he disappears. You can email him, you can call him, you can try to reach him. He does not answer. And my team knows exactly what I'm talking about. And so Documenta was planned to open a few weeks, in a few weeks. And Caroline and myself went to Marseille. And we were both very frightened. We didn't know if he's going to come up with any work. And we were like amazed to see what you just saw. And it's a 1-hour production that is extremely fascinating and which played the first time at Documenta. Wael, let me ask you a question that many may wonder. In all of your films, it's either puppets playing, like in the Crusades, the roles of human beings, or it is children playing the major roles of politicians or activists. Why children? Why puppets? Why not adults? Why not professional actors?
Yeah, I think even in Al Arab Al Madfouna, because this is also a series I'm working on now, I'm still really fascinated by working with kids. I believe that I really hate acting. I hate the idea of the professional actor. And to involve this in a film can be extremely difficult for me. Let's talk about the marionettes mainly, because I think the idea of the marionette is really connected to me of working with kids a lot. It's the idea of working with someone does not really have the history that we know. For example, working with kids to translate the assassination of the President Sadat in '81. It's very important to work with kids who don't really know who Sadat is. So they're just following what I just tell them. Okay, jump from this car to here, run this way. They don't know the event. We know the event by heart because I personally, as a kid, was watching the TV when the assassination happened. And I think it's extremely important to see that you are erasing drama from the performer. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I think this is also part of working with marionettes. You don't see the acting skills does not become the main value in the work. In fact, the topic itself becomes the main value, and and also that erases drama from the
yes,
film.
Probably it's much more playful, of course. Yes. Imagine the brutality of the murdering we just saw if it was played by adults, and it becomes like a fiction, a story, and is no more reality. I think this is important.
It is important, and it's also important, for example, I think it's also important to remove the gender layer from this entire film, and just to look at them as societies. This is the fun. But maybe we can also very quickly show part from the first.
In fact, for part 2 and 3 is, as you saw now, these are marionettes that Wael has made. But the start of this whole project was made with historical marionette. He found in a collection in Torino, and in a historical collection, when he had the grant to work at the Fondazione Pistoletto. And for the first part, the marionettes are puppets from the 18th century, and he was allowed to redress them and to change the makeup to make them look like historical figures. We're going to show a little bit from the very first part so that you see where it all started.
Okay, yes. So, yeah, that was the first film. This is the part of the first film, Cabaret Crusades, the horror show file. Yeah, that was made in 2010 in Italy, Biella. And it tells the history of only the first 4 years of the Crusades history. So from 1095, starting with the speech by Pope Urban II, when he launched the first Crusades, and ends with the date 1099, when the Crusaders managed to enter Jerusalem. And I found that this is very important introduction. The entire scenography here is more realistic. The perspective is, as you see, is completely different from the perspective in the second and the third film. It's more like European Renaissance perspective. And as we see in the second film that I've just showed now, where the Bahraini musicians are singing, it's all the background, the scenography is more like 2D, and it's based on Persian and Islamic miniatures. I found an extremely important geographer and weapon maker. His name is Nasuh Matriksi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correct, actually. He's a Bosnian artist, lived in the 14th century, and he made amazing maps for Constantinople, for Damascus, for Aleppo, for Homs, and I used all of his maps to be my reference. So you see in the background, mainly his maps turned into a huge scenography to present the location that exists. So yeah, this is just briefly to see the differences.
So in fact, let me finish on a note and say what the role of the gallery is in all of that. The role of the gallery is to discover the persons, the artists who the gallerist believes in. And when I chose a person like Wael, when I decided to work with him and to defend him and to help make him famous, and bring works to international exhibitions, to documentas, biennales, museums. The work is now owned by many museums. why Wael? What is Wael different? Why not another artist? And I think the importance is really when you work with young artists and you start working with them from the beginning and don't wait until they become famous to start working with them. It's to really try to find out how good they are and how specifically how much they work from their deepest inner self, how much they can articulate something that you haven't seen before. It is so hard for someone to express in a new way. And the importance of an artist is in fact when you compare many artists to see things you haven't seen before. And how difficult is it to find things you haven't seen before? So thank you for Wael for being Wael and for doing all of that. And I hope that we'll be able to have many more projects and to fascinate you on and on again. And I think we can now open our discussion to the floor in case some of you have questions and answers. I will answer.
Hi, good morning. You were just saying earlier with regard to the work that it was commissioned between a number of galleries and museums and so on, and about the ownership. Can you just explain to me how that works a little bit more? So where does it arrive? How do they negotiate that?
In fact, are you asking me or the artist?
Well, whoever owns it, whoever the relationship's with, is the contract directly with the artist, or did you do
the
it
gallery
through the gallery?
usually does the job the artist doesn't like to do. So we are the ones who go to people and say, we are looking at a very big project, we need money, because without money you cannot do productions like these. It involves lots of capital and of energy, but also money. And so you try to find donors, sponsors, and museums who are ready to work and to sponsor the project. And in fact, the third part was the most complicated and complex, but the most difficult at the start, of course. When the first part was produced, we showed it in Beirut, and it was in the gallery, and I thought it is an amazing production. And Adriano Pedrosa came to Beirut, saw the show, and invited Wael to the Istanbul Biennial. And this made the start of the recognition of that amazing work. And Caroline Christophe Bakaryev, I traveled to Kassel at that time. Before Istanbul Biennale, showed her the film on the laptop. She said, I don't have time to look at the film. We need to run. You have showed me like so many artists. And I said, please give me 1 minute. When she started looking at the first image, she wouldn't stop. And she invited him straight away to Documenta. I don't know if I answered your question. Is that what you wanted to hear?
No. What I wanted to know is with regard to who actually owns it. If you get all this money in from a variety of things and you have the exhibition, at the end of it, do you make like number of copies for the artists that you own independently, or who actually owns it? Because you had that collaborative approach between sponsorships, galleries, museums, and so how do you articulate that in the ownership? Well,
all these works are limited editions. Each film comes in an edition of 5 plus 2 AP. And we try to place the work in museums. And we decided and agreed that we would give the work one per country and no more, so that, and only to public institutions. We sold the work only to public institutions and to museums. Is this what you're asking?
Can I maybe, I don't know if this is exactly what, I can give example. I mean, I think each film has a different way to deal with. But in the 3 films I worked with, public institutions, non-profit, but they have money to make this production. So the money is not really coming from a place that will pay the money, then they will have the rights of the work, really. For example, the first film was produced with Pistoletto. Yeah, they paid the complete production for this film. And they only requested to have one copy, and I had the rest. And the second film was already produced by, it was Marseille, the capital of the culture. Yes. So Marseille, that was also governmental actually
Brussels
money, so they paid
and
for
the
it.
Belgian.
Yes, but I had to pay some of the work, basically. Instead, sometimes it exceeds the limits. So I had to give something like some of the marionettes goes to the city or goes to the museum. This is also what happened in this film, to give back. It's a really big production, especially the last one. And yeah, we had to give something back to the city. I don't know if this is the right answer.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know about relationships and how it got to the end.
Yes.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say I love your work very much, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what you want to do in the future, and if the relationship will carry on, or if you've got any plans on what you're working on at the moment?
Yes, of course. Inshallah, we are working together. But the idea is, yes, I'm starting now a new production. But I decided to wait for 1 year only to read and to study a bit. And yeah, it's mainly a production about the history, the establishment of the Gulf, the Arab Gulf countries. And yeah, it needs 1 year of studying before I decide anything, really. Yes.
Hello. Just a very quick question about the. You were talking about the production. The first film came out in 2010, but I just wonder, what is actually the whole timeline happened? How did you decide it with the? When did you decide it with the whole idea of Cabaret Crusades? And then what was the timeline? Then because it was kind of partial that I couldn't see the whole map. That okay, you went to Met Museum and have the sketches at some point, but I'm a little confused about the whole timeline. Could you just summarize it?
The timeline of the film or the production of
production that the three films that came out one by one, but I'm kind of lost with how it started and then.
Yeah. Okay, the first idea of making anything about the Crusades history, I was invited to produce something in Kenya, actually. It was something just like for 2 weeks. I went to Kenya in a place called Lamu, and I spent there 2 weeks, where I decided to make some work with kids and donkeys. That's it. That was the whole film. And it's called Crusades, Telematch Crusades. So that was part of a previous series called Telematch. Yeah, from this moment, it was very superficial. It was just the idea about the Crusades. That's it. I didn't know anything really I can talk about. And I decided to read. And the first book I read was Amin Malouf, The Crusades Through Arab Eyes. And I think it's extremely important book, because many parts of this series rely on this book. I don't believe in history. I don't believe in anything. I just believe that it's a human creation. And I think it's just a sort of creativity. It's a translation form. So what is happening that I try to keep it as is. I try to keep it as precise as it's written. From Amin Malouf uses many different sources, of course, including what I just mentioned, Ibn al-Qalansi, Ibn Munqidh, and so on. I go back to the main sources, and I sometimes even I uses versions that is coming, for example, from someone called Suhail Zakkar, a Syrian historian, who decided to collect all these documents, and sometimes he includes his own opinion. But it's not really my personal opinion in this, which is very important. My personal opinion comes from the choice of the parts itself, but I don't change the script. So the timeline, I decided that the timeline will start from the speech by Pope Urban II, by launching the Crusades. But there is something very important happened before, and I just showed part of it in the first film, which is the plague that happened in Constantinople in 541. For many historians, they believe that this plague was the reason for a very bad economical situation in Constantinople, and this is part also of they became very weak, and the Turks, the Muslims, started to attack this area. And this is one of the reasons that they started to seek the help from Rome. And so Constantinople asked Rome to help them. And that's what happened for the First Crusades. So this is the beginning. The beginning came with the speech of Pope Urban II and ended with the Fourth Crusades in 12...
Karbala.
Yeah.
Is it Karbala?
Well, Karbala is only just a reference for something happened completely before the Crusades time. But I'm just talking about the ending of the whole series, the timeline, as you're speaking. The final scene, it ends with this attack that happened on Constantinople, as I said. And it happened in 1204. And that's also important to say that the beginning was the speech that led by Pope Urban II, that he even died before knowing that the Crusaders entered Jerusalem, because the news takes time to come back. So it took them 4 years to go to Jerusalem, but he did not know that they already succeeded. And it ends with the idea of capturing Constantinople, again, to say that this is becoming economical purpose, not really as Pope Urban II decided.
I have one question, rather operational. As an artist, are you represented just by one gallery? Or are there any other galleries supporting you in the same way? Or is that one really intense?
Well, actually, for Cabaret Crusades series, I started with Andrée. Now I have another gallery. I'm working also with Listen Gallery. Yes. But the Cabaret Crusades as a project, I worked with Andrée in it. So now we are maybe working with other projects with the Listen Gallery. I started with Listen Gallery professionally maybe a year ago.
Okay, so it depends rather on the kind of work with who you work with, or is it more like the gallerist has a lot of input in the direction your project is going? So does this depend on?
Oh, I'm not sure about this idea. I mean, as I said, it's extremely important to have someone to speak to. Really, it's important that the gallerist understand what I'm talking about. It's not only an economical platform for sale. It's not really, this is not the main purpose, especially with this kind of work. Because also this kind of work, I think it's extremely dangerous. It can be easily, how can I say this? Like, it can be easily entertainment form and can be easily kitsch. Working with glass is extremely risky. Most of the work in glass that I've seen is extremely kitsch. And actually, it's, you need to have a really strong surrounding, let's say, with the gallerist, with the curator you're surrounded by, to have this type of conversation so the work does not go into a wrong direction. But yeah, of course, I have plans for different productions coming. Yeah, I don't know if which gallery will like the work, but this is really what is happening. I really have to say that Andrée was the one who started with me Cabaret Crusades.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the... Hi, my name is Leila. I'm a lawyer, also becoming an artist. I appreciate and follow your art. Thank you very much. And Andrée, thank you for the beautiful presentation. The question I have is, Wael, if you could in one sentence, what would be the message you're trying to deliver to the viewers by producing such a masterful films and art? Just one sentence, what is your message?
Sentence is very difficult. Okay.
What are you trying to say by, okay, I have an experience by, I have an art blog on Instagram, and I was trying to like your picture on Instagram once upon a time, and the Instagram asked my feedback because it found inappropriate the post about your film or your exhibition. I'm a Muslim myself, so I think I understand why it could be a little bit sensitive for people from Arab world by maybe the video, maybe the marionettes, I'm not sure, but maybe you came across some I don't know, difficulties or problems by introducing your films to the world. Have you experienced any? Sorry.
No, I think sometimes the topics are sensitive. Like this film, for example, we have not shown the first part of it, but for example, it's the idea about as I said, Sunnah and Shia, and it reflects the first conflict and the first split that happened in Islam between two sects. So it became Sunnah and Shia. And this is almost 50 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. I think it's extremely important to mention it in this film. And yeah, we had some worries that maybe this will be complex, especially showing this in Doha, for example. But I think in the end, it's fine. I think it's a history, so I'm not creating the history. There is a massacre happened between two groups, and the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad was killed. And this is reality that's happened. Sunnah knows that, and Shia knows that. So we have to say that this is what happened, and that's it. This is the history as it's written. But if you want...
I think that the films are really fictional enough not to be dangerous and risk censorship. They don't play here and now. They don't involve in actual politics. They remain away from, and this is in fact the quality of those films. The fact that they are not historically in the present. They are everywhere. They are in the past and in the future and in the present.
But also I can say something about what you've just mentioned. I would say that I would like a lot to use the cinema language, for example, to work with our visual art field, not the opposite. I don't really like to have to make films, and at least for now. And big part of this big productions that it's really trying to discover new ways of making art, let's say. But most of the time, I don't know how it is. And I think this is what happened in each production, including the making of the marionette in glass. That really part of it, it's a dream, but I'm not sure if this will succeed or not. And I think that's why it's art in the end. If we know how to make it, it's not art anymore. It loses its meaning. So you just like really, I'm always feeling that I'm running after my own ignorance. And I think that's why it's carrying this energy of making art, basically.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.